Delhi 50 years ago. It's the great coronation Durbar of 1911 when King George V was proclaimed Emperor of India. This was the first time a British sovereign had ever visited the country, so it was an occasion of great magnificence. A sumptuous city of silken tents covering 45 square miles was erected for the occasion. And in the center of it, on a throne of gold and silver, sat the King Emperor, receiving the homage of princes from every corner of the Indian Empire. A spectacle such as India had never seen before. Today, the old India has become two republics, India and Pakistan. And the granddaughter of George V is received not as an empress, but as head of the Commonwealth. The welcome prepared for her, though, is none the less enthusiastic. And on the surface, there is much that appears unchanged in the last half-century. The pageantry of 1961 is prepared by the ordinary people, like the men and women who came from all over India to dance in Delhi for the Queen. George V took 3 weeks to reach India by sea. Today, Delhi is 15 hours from London by Britannia. And although it's 11 years since India and Pakistan became independent of the Crown, the ties of friendship are as strong as ever. Dr. Prasad, the Indian president, emphasized this in his address of welcome when the Queen arrived in New Delhi. There's the Vice President, Dr. Radhakrishnan, and behind him, Mr. Nehru, the Prime Minister.
For the Queen, this is the beginning of 5 strenuous weeks in which she's never to be far from the crowds pressing forward for a glimpse of her. There are nearly 370 million people in India, another 75 million in Pakistan. And the royal tour has been carefully planned so that as many of them as possible will be able to tell their grandchildren they saw the Queen ride by. It's a memorable experience for the Queen too. On the first day, she was already saying she'll have a wonderful story to tell her children when she gets home. The first of the big receptions, a few hours after the arrival in New Delhi. It's been estimated that the Queen has shaken 50,000 hands in the last 5 weeks. And she's been deeply moved at the sight of the huge masses of people who've given her such a friendly greeting.
Karachi pelted the royal car with rose petals at the start of the visit to Pakistan. These were the biggest crowds this city has ever seen. Even in the desolate northwest frontier, in the Khyber Pass, there were crowds waiting to cheer.
The Queen has a quick eye to spot individual faces in a vast crowd, and there were endless faces to catch her attention. Solemn faces. And not so solemn faces.
Shy faces.
Family faces.
Beautiful faces.
And faces as varied as you'd expect to find in a land whose people have nearly 900 different languages.
Another face inseparable from India, the face of the country's heavy transport. The royal journey has been by road, rail, air and water. But here it's on an elephant, right into the palace of the Maharaja of Jaipur. It's often the older methods of transport that seem the most dignified. This vintage Rolls, for instance, is reminiscent of the palmiest days of the Maharajas. And here's a carriage in which the first Empress of India, Queen Victoria, would have been thoroughly at ease.